Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. My name is Angela Zabel. That's me. Today, we are going to be talking with Athena Laz, and I can't wait to get into this. She has a brand new book out called Women Who Dance in the Dark, and that is something there is so much to get in with her. She also, and I'm going to do a little plug here, she also has this amazing deck called the Sisterhood of Seers Oracle card deck, and so much more. I can't wait. And I'm going to keep it a little cliffhanger there, but we'll get into it in a bit. So, who am I? My name is Angela Zabel. I have been connected to spirit, working with the team in the non-physical my entire life, sharing messages from a multitude of realms with people. I am a teacher, coach, medium, radio show host, writer, retreat host. There's a bunch going on there. So, but I also work with people offering guidance, intuition, intuitive and mediumship guidance. And also, I also do classes and the Amplified Universe monthly membership. This is a membership growing our connection to us, who we are, all that is around us, our world, and our role in it. And you can find out more about me at angelazabel.com. And I'm pretty much on all the social media, so go ahead and check it out. And today, I'm going to do my best to get this in right here. Let's see, I got it. So we are here with Edge Magazine. Edge Magazine is the leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, wellness, and the mysteries beyond, sharing information, wisdom, and resources committed in promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support our collective journey to wholeness and balance. It's currently distributed in 30 states and Canada with over 17,000 magazines per printing, but also the vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. You can have the magazine shipped to your door, stay up to date with the newsletter, and if you have a business, you can become a drop spot and have this magazine at your business. And you can also check out more at, there's another person who does radio shows, and that is Kelly Wagner with the Being Curious show on Edge Talk Radio or Edge Magazine. So check that out at edgemagazine.net. And today we are here with Athena Laz. She is the best-selling author of Wisdom Who Dance in the Dark, beautiful title, The Alchemy of Your Dreams, The Sisterhood of Seers, Oracle card deck, which I have. It's beautiful. And her books have been translated into more than 13 languages worldwide. She is an intuitive, psychologist, channeler, and a dream teacher who helps thousands of people worldwide connect to their spirit and in their psyche. And you can see more about her work at athenalaz.com. And that I'm going to spell it, but also know all the links will be down below. It's ATHENALAZ.com. And also, there's so much more Facebook, Instagram. Check out her books. Go to Amazon, find everything. Get her Oracle card deck. Highly recommend. Beautiful deck. But, Tina, I am so glad to have you here. And I've got to ask you, how in the world did you get on this track of your life? Because I know there's been more before.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to speak to you today, Angel. It's such a great question because I think it just lands us in the exact right spot for our conversation. So I have to backtrack a bit. When I was younger, I had a lot of psychic experiences, and I would say very, very psychic and intuitive experiences, and a lot of stuff that happened during dreaming. At the time, I didn't know what lucid dreaming was. I had no clue that I was actually going out of body consciously when I was a child, but I would retain the memory. And so I've always had this deep connection to nature and to spirit and to intuitive ways of being in the world. Um, but that said, it was very much a private thing. So it wasn't something I necessarily shared with people um, out in the world. I didn't get any sort of negative beliefs from my family about it. It was just, I think, the time and place where I lived in or grew up in. And I kind of packed it, I sort of felt like I packed it away. So that was my real life, my real world, but I kind of went out into the world with a very specific kind of persona. And then I hit my 20s and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I had no clue. I was one of those people, I was totally lost. I kept saying, I'm lost, I'm lost. and and I was lucky enough to do I actually ended up taking a gap year because I really had no clue what to do. I had dropped out of university because I enrolled for a business program, and just I sat in like 3 lectures and I was like, this is not for me. It was a hard no, but then I had all this time and I was like, well, what am I going to do with this time? And I ended up working in this restaurant with a whole group of people, which led to another job in this esoteric shop. And through that job, I was given a lot of spiritual books. And one of them was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay,
Louise Hay. Oh,
right?
beautiful.
And I read the book. It was like someone had turned on a light in my mind. I actually still get goosebumps when I think about it. And I thought that's what I'm here to do. And so I re-registered to university. I went and became a psychologist. I wanted to pursue that path. I felt it was very meaningful for me. But at the same time, I trained with metaphysical teachers and I still worked in that esoteric shop. And so my 20s were really just packed in learning very sort of psychological in-depth theory about all these things, then going to work and doing meditations and hearing people tell me about all these cool experiences they were having, and selling books and selling oracle cards and selling tarot, all the things. And then finally I became licensed. I opened up a private practice for a while, and in 2016 I was lying in my garden and I got this huge message from spirit saying, like, it's time to go online, it's time to move away from psychology, it's time to integrate. And I said, okay, if I do this, then I want to be deeply supported and make it easy for me, because I don't know anything about that. And literally a week later, a woman I hadn't seen since primary school, one of my friends, ran into me. We ran into each other. We hadn't seen each other literally in years. And she said, what are you doing? And I said, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And I want to write books and I want to teach about what I know in the way that I've experienced it. And she said, you need a column for Cosmo. Come write. I've just become the deputy editor. And it was crazy. It was crazy. And so I had this this is in South Africa at the time. And so I had this fun column. It was very sort of self-help orientated, not really spiritual topics, but I really had a great time doing it, and it helped me set up my work. And so that's kind of not such a short story, but that's how I find myself doing what I do. And then fast forward, of course, I set up my work, wrote my books, and here we are.
I love that. I love how, I love how spirit is there and is there supporting us. And I love the idea. One of the things when you said, I asked to be supported, to be fully supported, that is something a lot of people don't even think to ask.
Yeah.
And when you did that, because I know my team is coming in and they're saying they know you were in a comfortable position, you were
Yeah.
making good money. It wasn't like, and then you're stepping off into the unknown. And that's something so difficult for a lot of people. But with you, you knew you were going to be fully supported because you asked for it.
I think I often think about my spirit team. Firstly, I love what you're saying. Yes, isn't that so important for us to just be able to remember that we can reach out and get support? That we have so many helpers. But I like to think that I really dished it back out. I was like, come on, if we're gonna do this, then do it. And I am never not in awe by the way life can move us and the way we can be supported by spirit. And so that's really something that I feel, I think deeply connects us, actually.
Absolutely. And that, that's the thing too. Like you said, you were kind of putting it back on their thing, like dishing out, like, come on, let's do this, let's do that. A lot of people are a little hesitant to do that. Like, ooh, I might be asking too much. Is that too much? Should I be talking to them like I do regular people? And
Yeah.
I think you're like, absolutely.
Yes. And I think it's it's such a funny thing, because I feel like, this is something that I talk about in the book, Woman Who Danced in the Dark, right? that we haven't really, well, I speak for myself here, it's a huge generalization, but in the way that I grew up, and most of the people around me, even still now, the people that I connect with, most of us are not taught how to directly communicate with spirit. We
Yes.
are often taught through intermediaries, or we taught it's not real, or there's a lot of belief that can go, against that. And so I think it's sometimes taking years of social and cultural conditioning and just saying, okay, what is the worst that can happen if you tried it for 30 days? But in a respectful manner. I was kind of, I did dish it out that day with my guides, but I also know to the core of it, that it is very much a bi-directional relationship, and that it should be built in the same way you would have a mutually beneficial and respectful relationship with a person in your life, you know? And it's that simple, like you're saying, just have the conversation, just speak like you would with another person. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing because a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people, I know you talk to a lot of people, and there's so many people that are afraid to, like, how do I do that? What if I'm not worthy enough to be talking to them? And how can I possibly talk direct to someone that I can't see, hold, feel, and yet feel like I can talk to them like any other person in my life. And my team is kind of laughing, except you don't want to talk to them like the person you really don't care for, but the people you really do like.
Exactly. I love that. Hi, team.
Our team. And it is so it's having finding that comfort level, and that's something you found that comfort level quite early on. I feel with you it was quite early on. It wasn't, like when you started doing this, you had that comfort level for a very long time. How did you find that comfort? And because I mean, honestly, and my team is wanting us to back up a little bit. When you talked about when you grew up, you had all these connections, you had this for you, but yet you didn't have the support. Somebody saying, "Oh yeah, that's spirit talking to you. That's your team. That's." How did you come to that realization? Was it just getting that more symbiotic relationship with your team where it just felt more comfortable? How did that progress for you?
So when I was very young, I used to see spirit, and I would see them in the room with me. And I didn't really think anything of it. I just think the people around me thought I was daydreaming, like I had an imaginary friends.
That's
I was very kind of, and I don't know, I just felt real. I think there's a resonance to it that comes through. And I say always, actually, when I was in my teenage years, I really disconnected from spirit, and actually in my early 20s too. Even though I knew I was always connected, it was like a conscious thing. But when I was much younger, there was no disconnect because I don't think I had been taught it yet. And and I think it was also easier to kind of be medial, right? What I call medial, which is mediumistic, intuitive, psychic, connected to nature, connected to spirit, connected to other people, right? Exactly what you are, how you move through the world. And so I just I don't think I put any barriers to it. And I've always been clairaudient. It's still one of my strongest channels. I hear spirit. I'm comfortable with that. Sometimes I still see spirit. I can do practices, if I'm in deep meditation to see, but my primary channel now is, it's mainly through hearing, just because I think, standing, it's so funny. I worked with someone once, and he was like, I really want to be clairvoyant. I want to be able to see spirit. And so, like, he held this intention for a couple of weeks. Anyway, he's making something in the kitchen one day. He's making himself a meal, and he turns around and he sees spirit, and he gets this huge fright, right? and
yes.
and so he texts me, and he's like, okay, this is kind of amazing, but also kind of knocked me out a little. And I think that's kind of the sentiment, that sometimes it's just more comfortable in one or two parameters. So for me, that's kind of how I connect. I don't even know if I answered the question, but that's the main thing.
And that's a really good point you brought up because a lot of people talk about, oh, I want to see spirit. I want to see it in the physical. And I'm going to tell you right now, if most people would see them in the physical, it would freak them out. It'd be
Absolutely.
fearful. It'd be scary because I mean, and honestly, do you want to turn around and be bumping into someone next to you that's all the time? It's, it's, and it's like, do I see them? I see them, I hear them, I smell them, all the different ones. But it's on my terms too, and it's also knowing for me, it's not, it's not unexpected, and for me, it doesn't frighten me. But if it ever did, I could just tell them, "Oh, that's enough. Let's go back to something else that's more comfortable." And my team is just saying the amount of people who always want to see us all the time, see us, see us, see us. But we are not here to just be seen. Feel us. That there's so much more coming and feeling than you're ever going to get from seeing. So
Yeah.
just feel them and hear them, do all the others. Because if you want to see them, fine, but just know it can be fearful. It's unexpected, and each
Yeah.
one's going to look differently. They're not all the same.
No.
It's like
And
we're not all the same.
no, exactly. And I think it's exactly what you're saying, that this felt sense is the main thing. It's a heart connection.
Yes.
And we are receiving information in so many ways. Um, and actually at all times really is my belief. And so the minute, like you're saying, when you begin to feel comfortable in the way you can receive, and communicate, that significantly changes. And like you said, you can also ask, you can say, I'm not comfortable with this, it needs to change, or please rather more like this, whatever the situation is. But
You
isn't it
are
cool?
in, it is cool, and you're always in control. And that's one of the things your book, and I have not read your book, full disclosure, have not read your book yet, but I'm hearing from them it is something that really helps bring calm and peace to people. And it also gives a way of navigating without the fear and moving beyond the fear. That is so important. And like I say, it's always amazing. They always know what's going on and what people are creating. And I always find that amazing. But they want you to know that you are creating something so helpful to so many people.
Yeah.
And it is done in a way, and they're saying the channeling through the heart was very much felt in this book.
Oh, good. I literally feel that I walk the pathway of the heart in this book, and
Mm.
that so it's so resonant what you're saying. And I think um I think people who read it will feel that, because it is a book that when I wrote it, I always feel writing is a practice of initiation to some degree. Um,
Yes.
and the book for me was part of that, and a real return to the heart. And also, the heart is the main channel of communication. For me, it was a real pivotal thing in the book. So you're so spot on about it. It's absolutely, like, I would say, a core tenet of the book is that it's a pillar. Maybe not really. I mean, I say it actually many, many times in the book. I'm like, this is a return to the heart. We are being initiated through the heart, but we're doing it through this beautiful and potent archetype that most people have forgotten, which, well, have not been taught about, which is the medial archetype. But really, it's just becoming receptive, and being, and like you're saying, which I think is fundamental in this, the safety element of, you are in control. There's nothing to be frightened of, specifically when you are in that heart space,
Yeah.
because it can't be interrupted. The connection to source can't be interrupted in that heart space.
And that is so true. And because there is a lot of fear with people, like and once I open myself up, what am I going to have? What do I do? And to realize anytime you're working through your heart, with anyone, whether it's in the non-physical or in the physical, when you're working from that heart space, there's nothing that can harm you, nothing that can hurt you, and everything to be gained. And that's something I've got to ask you. How did you come up with the name of the book? Because I love that, Women Who Dance in the Dark. How did that come about?
So it's so funny because the so I'm sure a lot of people listening, and I'm sure a lot of people know, there is a book called Woman Who Run with Wolves. And it
Mm,
was a very popular book. I'd say even now it's still popular, but mainly like in the 80s and 90s, it really came up in collective consciousness. And it was about the wild woman archetype. And in that book, she had about 3 pages on the medial woman.
mm,
And when I wrote my dream book in Alchemy, I was living on a farm. This was in 2020. And I was writing a chapter about connecting. The words were, you are the bridge between the waking world and the dream world, the seen and the unseen. And as I wrote those words, I received, your work is going to be on the medial woman. And I couldn't remember. I was like, what is this? I didn't know what the name was. I Googled and I found the name, the medial woman, through her book, Woman Who Danced with the Wolves. And I had read it a long time ago, so the name was in there most definitively, but it came up in that moment. And so when it came to write the title of the book, I was like, what energy should this, what is the energy, the title? And I loved taking it one step further. And then the name came to me. It was like, oh, it's Woman Who Dance in the Dark, because it's very much about being comfortable in the unknown, in the mystery, surrendering to spirit, not needing to always have to, like we were saying earlier, it's not just you don't have to see spirit to
yeah.
understand that you're connected all the time. You also don't have to know what's going to happen collectively to walk through a pathway of the heart. So when we are in times of divisiveness, collective change, unknown, personally collective, that kind of energy comes through to help us bridge and open up to receive another pathway forward. And we don't have to know what that is to be able to do it. So it's very much about frequency, and I felt the title kind of embodied that, and then also honored Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who had written, like the first kind of, she wasn't the first person to talk about the medial woman. That was a woman called Toni Wolff. But in my pathway, that's kind of how it came up.
I love that. And I love how spirit just, it will come through. And my team is laughing. They're saying, you realize they'll give you words that you have no idea what they
Oh,
are.
yeah.
So you have to research them.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know when I did Sisterhood of the Seers, shameless plug, but I typed Lahina Noon and I thought, I don't know what that is. I had to go and Google and I was like, oh, that's amazing. That is so cool. It's a time in Hawaii where there's no shadow. That's
Oh,
amazing to me.
interesting.
They're like, we don't
It
have
is.
shadow here. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing.
It is always to me it's fascinating because you know, and that's one of the things to know when when you know you're working with something other than yourself, that is this being, I call it the team, the divine, and people call it all different, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. And the biggest thing is when you're getting information where you're like, where did that come from? What does that even mean? And you're going like, ooh, I need to research this some more. That's a really good indication you're getting information not from yourself, but from others around you. And you have done that so much throughout your time. They're saying, I'm just hearing that there's a lot of people that like to play with you and give you words that you purposely don't know.
I know it's never a dull moment. And I actually love that because I feel like I write my books with teams. And I think that it's such a I really enjoy that. Let me just leave it at that. I really enjoy that. Thank you, Spirit.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is you've been following that. You've been following that with everything you've been creating and going taking that leap from psychology to going into here. I think my team is kind of laughing a little bit, I'm just going to say, because they're saying sometimes people go into the psychology and understanding the mind because they want to make sure they're not crazy.
Yeah.
And it's also knowing, like understanding more about who you are. I've got that psychology background had to really help you as you're moving forward with putting all these together and knowing kind of how people think and how they operate. And has when they're saying even when you were doing readings with people, you were using the psychology and that from the other. How
Yeah.
was that kind of an easy transition for you going kind of back and forth between those realms?
Yeah, because I felt like I had integrated them both. And
Mm,
then I think, like you were saying earlier, in terms of the listeners who hear your show, that spirit knows who they are. And so I feel like sometimes when I do group readings in that way, spirit knows who I am, and then they know who needs to be there. So, for example, I did when the Sisterhood of Seers came out, Hay House um invited me onto their platform to do readings for their audience. And it was a large group of people. It was probably a couple hundred people. Um, and the theme that ran throughout that group reading for most people was some level of like unintegrated trauma.
mm,
And what was so beautiful about it, I felt, is that we were working in such a pragmatic way, because I was literally hearing, like, are you doing this type of therapy, like CBT, but also you're working with spirit in this way? And I think it was such beautiful confirmation that, like, we don't have to actually split wellness. And I think that's been a huge part of my own journey, that I feel it's funny that you mentioned earlier about, oh, you just study to make sure you're not crazy. I think to some degree there was a little element of me that maybe really did that. Um, but also that it's not a whole picture to some degree without the two, because we're so embodied, and sometimes like the most spiritual solution is running around the block. It's a physical one. Sometimes it's a real psychological one. Okay, you haven't unpacked this thing from childhood. It doesn't mean you have to be in therapy for like 3 years. Spirit can help you move that energetically as well. But sometimes it's good to go and speak to someone. It doesn't have to, in my opinion, be one or the other. And so my pathway has really, and I think the life I've led, and the experiences I've had have just kind of led me to weave the two together. So it's easy for me to move between them. It has also come with its consequences. For
mm,
example, sometimes it's like not closed enough for either group. So I've often found myself in a space fitting into neither spaces. Um, and so what I liked about what I love about writing is that it kind of calls a community in any way. Um,
mm. That's one of the things is knowing as we go forward, it is bringing all the worlds together. We've so much looked at, there's the scientific, there's the
yeah,
metaphysical, and there's all of this, and it's bringing all of it together. It's really that connection, and so much more healing on so many levels can happen when you bring them together. And that's something, like you said, I totally agree. It's bringing all of that together and knowing that my team is saying what you said, how you don't have to be in, say, if you want to go to a therapist for a while, you don't have to be in therapy for
yeah.
20 years or 3 years. It can go so quickly when you're integrating all the realms together.
Absolutely right. And I think we know that from like I feel from like a quantum perspective, we can really look at that from a timeline perspective. We know timelines can shift and change. And I think anyone who's a deliberate dreamer, like a lucid dreamer, will know that intimately, right? And so we can absolutely use our spiritual ways of being in the world to navigate well. But I find that if there's a mental block, well, then just that, if that's something that gets in the way of you being able to take that step, like to communicate with spirit or to try something different, and it's not in a shaming way, it's actually in a very empowering way. It just means that you have one more avenue that can help.
Yes.
That's how I see it, and if it isn't working, then ditch it and move on to something else.
Ex-
But
Exactly. And that's the thing, giving yourself the freedom to go, this isn't working. I'm going to
right.
move on to something else. There's nothing wrong with that. Instead of looking at it like a failure, like, oh, I've tried this for how long and it's still not working. It's not supposed to. It's meant for you to
No.
move to something else.
Move along. Mm.
That's still not working. Let's try it again. Not working. Let it go and start over.
Yeah.
So one of the things you've done is, you're talking about the medial nature that is within us all. So can you kind of go into that medial nature? What is that? How do people recognize that within themselves? You've kind of explained it, maybe explain a little bit more. And then how do we recognize that medial nature, that who we are as that medial woman? How do you recognize that?
So that's such a great question. Thank you. The medial nature is our natural ability to be able to perceive in whatever way we point our focus towards, bridging both the unseen and seen worlds. And when we recognize we can do that, that we are innately equipped with the ability to do that, we become medial by nature. We remember that we are medial by nature. And so, in the traditional sense, the paper, this amazing woman, Toni Wolff, who actually helped Carl Jung do all his journeying, or a lot of his important journeying, where he met his guides and really did this sort of spiritual navigation, in my opinion. She helped mirror and hold that for him. And she wrote this very small paper, this like 15-page paper, where she mapped out a woman's psyche by giving 4 archetypes. And one of them is the medial woman. And in it, she said that women are naturally mediumistic. She was definitely a woman of her time. So she definitely writes in quite a dismissive way to some people. But she rarely meant it, I feel, meant it in the way that this is a natural ability for us. It's natural for us to mediate. It's natural for us to be mediums. It's natural for us to understand unconscious and conscious imagery. And she meant that, and I mean that in the very sort of um, depth psychology way of working with dreams, or if you're sitting in meditation and you see a symbol, so you work with it in that way from your interior world, but then at the same time understanding, like we've been discussing, well, that your spirit team can also send you symbols and signs. And so understanding that that's the language. And so a medial woman understands that, oh, when we speak in the language of the soul, when we speak in the language of spirit, we are working most of the time symbolically at first. And then we're really just entering into conversation. And the more we do this, the more we allow ourselves to become open channels. And we can use that in whatever way we feel is best for us. And so when I wrote my book, I wrote it for anyone who wanted to just take that relationship one step further. Some people I feel will listen to our conversation and be motivated to become mediums, to be motivated to channel and write. And then at the same time, I know that some people may read the book and go, I don't want to be a medium, but I definitely want to have the support in my life. And I want to understand what my dreams mean. And I want to know what to do when I see a symbol and not just go, oh, it's a sign, say, from the universe. Okay, but then what? And so to be medial for me is to work with that inherent nature. And so it's really a threefold process. It's to work with it on an interior level, it's to work with it on a people and nature level. And then it's most definitively to work with it on a spirit level, communicating with non-physical, your spirit team, and also the multi-dimensional realities that we interact with.
And that's really key for people to understand. You don't, I agree with you. We're all mediums. I mean, well, honestly, what I do is nothing special. I always say it's nothing special. It is all because we all have it. We're all capable of doing it. And for other people to realize like you can do it too. And that's why I always say, everyone can do this. It's trusting and believing in yourself, and everyone can connect. And that's something you're helping people to trust and believe in themselves with this book also.
Thank you. I really wanted that to be one of the messages that people take away from the book, exactly like you're saying. And I think that some of us have a natural tendency to let it in a bit easier. I do believe that, but we
Yeah.
all have the ability. I really strongly feel it's a natural tendency that we all have. You know, it's just how much we're willing to participate and listen being the key.
Sometimes I don't
But
listen very well.
no, me neither. They're like, oh, you talk so much. I know.
They just got to talk faster, that's all.
Exactly.
Like, step it up a little bit. But it is helping people understand this is our natural state. I totally agree with you. This is our natural state, is being able to connect with all that's there and not being fearful of it. And that's the biggest thing because I mean, when Louise Hay came out, there wasn't a lot of stuff out there. She was towards the forefront of bringing that out. And now people, even in yoga, so many people do yoga, and that's connecting. That's connecting
Yeah,
into who you are. That's beautiful. And it's
exactly.
being more normal now. And people like you bringing more of that normalcy and showing like you can dance in the dark, you can connect and be, and I just keep feeling this presence of being so excited at who you are. You're
Yeah,
helping people be excited that they're connecting and feeling so much better about themselves. And
yeah,
they want me to go back to the time when you were younger. You kind of shut it off for a while, but it was always there. I mean, they
yeah.
always laugh. They're like, you shut it off what you want, but we're still here. So
Oh
it
yeah.
doesn't have to worry
And
about it.
it's and I still got lots of messages. I just didn't always pay attention to I mean, I didn't act on what I was receiving. I guess that's what
We didn't listen so well
didn't listen.
sometimes.
Yeah, to my own detriment, you know, really to my own detriment.
But you figured out it's better to listen.
Yeah, yes,
You
yes,
always have that choice, and that's one of the things is you always have that choice. And even when you feel like you're shutting it off, because honestly, we're living a human life. We're going through life. There's times in your life where we're just busy, busy, busy. There's a lot going on there, especially in that growth. I call it that just expansive growth in that
yeah.
20s and 30 in there. It's just like you're so busy, you have a hard time doing any of the other, but they're always there.
They're always there, right? And I think, I mean, I totally hear you on this. I think sometimes life calls for different periods, you know, and different moments. What I think is wonderful to see now, and I think this is what you were also talking about, it's becoming so much more normal that
Yes.
actually so many people nowadays are waking up to the fact that like how you wake up and set the tone for your day makes a huge difference, but not just in like a goal setting, but in a what does my higher self want to show me this morning before I walk out the room or the house or whatever it is, you know. And to me, that is so amazing because the more of us that can connect in that way, the more aligned we are, the less resistance we feel and also put out in the world. That means the world as a collective begins to feel more well, and then we'll see that even more, you know, in any sort of ancient tradition or culture, the connection to spirit came first and foremost, and but in a community orientated way, you know. So I think of like the dream tribes, and there still are a few dream tribes in the world where they wake up in the morning and as a group they connect to spirit through their dreaming, and then they will make decisions based on the dreams the night before for the collective of the group, right? And so that may not work for us, specifically in more modern ways of living, but the sentiment stands because wow, you're actually firstly also being given so much information when you sleep. It is such an untapped resource in my opinion. um, and you can wake up and use that information in such a helpful way. And so spirit can literally speak to you at night. They can speak to you in the in-between, and they can speak to you during your waking life. So you're supported all the time if you tap in, you know, but it's also taking responsibility for the way we show up and also
Yeah.
doing the practices of sort of like the mental, emotional, spiritual hygiene that goes along with that. You know, so a good something that I share in the book is, and I'm sure, I mean, I'm sure your listeners will probably know this, but a lot of the time people will say, for example, say you want something really, really badly. So then you go to your oracle deck and you shuffle, 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 and you get cards that are not the answer you want, right? So you put the cards back in and you shuffle, shuffle, shuffle again, and the same kind of cards pop out, or maybe even different, but still not the answer, you know? And so I think the hygiene level is going, okay, wait, I know it's not necessarily always about what we think. And I think that is the part that can be hard to let go of, you know, because it doesn't mean because you're in a relationship that you're going to get everything, a relationship with spirit, that you are going to get everything in the way you want it. But my experience of it is that it's often, I find, much better than what I could imagine. And if not better, the pain time period is much shorter than had I banged my head against the wall for something that really was not maybe meant for me, or something that I think, you know, there's just misalignment. So I think all these pathways are starting to become more collectively seen and known. And I think people are remembering in ways that are so wonderful. And I do think it's going to be much more normal. You know, I say that like what I mean is much more mainstream, you know?
Me,
Yeah.
yes.
Like I don't think it will still be in it's millions of people, but it's still, I still feel it's kind of like pockets in the world, you know?
Yes, I totally agree with you. And it is moving forward and people are putting that intention out. I think that is the most beautiful thing to see where people are being cognizant and going, what do I want? How do I want my day to be? What do I want to experience? And putting those intentions out there. It's so wonderful to see versus just like, oh, whatever happens and letting it flow because that's not
Yeah.
always the best.
No, and I also I find that like wow, if you could be so supported, you know, so like sometimes I'll get information and I'm sure it's the same for you. It can be really pragmatic. It'll be like, don't go to the coffee shop you usually go to at 11, go at 11:30, right?
Mm.
And to me, that's like, oh, okay. And I'll go at 11:30 and then I'll arrive at the coffee shop and they'll say that, you know, there was this woman there earlier screaming and shouting about something, and my energy, I just, that wasn't meant for me, right? And so it can be something so simple and pragmatic, but it can change the whole thread of the day, you know. And then never mind something simple like that, say you're really going through something, you know, whatever it is, like a health issue, or you know, whatever the problem is, that's really when you can lean into spirit and ask and listen, because there's usually some advice there. And I think that's what's so helpful, you know. Or if anyone's in grief specifically, I think what you do, you know, if you're grieving, um being able to connect to those you've lost, who are on the other side, who are, you know, there, but maybe just not being heard by the person. It's such a gift because there can be closure, there can be whatever the person kind of needs, you know. So to me, it's all packaged in the same thing. It all goes together, from something basic like don't go to the coffee shop, to connecting with someone on the other side who you may need closure with, you know. It's all the same. Like something that I've learned, that I think what I'm trying to say here is there's no hierarchical advice level. It's all helpful, right? That's what I've really found.
Yeah.
So it's like it may feel more impactful because it's something more emotionally charged, but really it's actually all helpful.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And having that ability to be helpful to people, that's so important because a lot of people think, well, what am I going to get? I'm just going to connect with my guides and ooh, angels sing and what do I get? It's knowing you're going to get information to help you move forward in whatever that is. And to know, like you said, sometimes you have an idea what you want, but it's not the best for you. And so you, like you said, you're picking cards and they'll come up the same, but different, but still with the same message again and again and again. And you're like, I don't want to hear that. And think about it. A lot of
Right.
us, we don't want to hear that. What we want isn't what we need. That's
Yeah,
hard. That's hard to do.
it can
And
be so hard. Sorry to
And
interrupt.
and you're helping people just understand that in a lot bigger light with your book, kind of going in and examining it and saying, here's a way to dance in that dark and know that you're not going to know how it's going to turn out. You're not going to know the ending, but you do know when you're going in knowing you're connected, you do know it's for the best of you.
Yes.
And
And
that's something. Go ahead.
oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But that's the one thing is to know you're doing it for the best of you and how to find what is the best for you. A lot of times we don't know on this human level. We don't know. We think it's this person, or we think we need to do that, or we think we need to be at the coffee shop at 11 instead
Yeah.
of 11:30. And it's being open to going, maybe there is another way. Maybe
Yes.
there is another way.
And I think that's so beautiful in the way you've said it, because that other way is a spirit's perspective, which is a higher perspective. And so we're so often, and I say this as like a collective we in a very generalized way, but we so often get stuck in the way we perceive things. And
Mm.
for whatever reason that is, how many times have you or I or the people we know around us, you go, that thing didn't work out, but it led me to this, or not even it not working out. I thought I was going to do this, and then somehow that happened, and then you land up. But if you had to take a bird's eye view and go all the way back and see it like a map of your life, that symphony, you would see the symphony at play. You wouldn't just be part of the note. We live in the note. The symphony is the connection. And I think that's part of the trusting in spirit, that they know that, they can see that, they can feel that, and so we can trust in that. And this isn't to abdicate like free will or choice or decision making. Actually, in my experience, spirit doesn't make decisions for you, or at least not for me, right? It's very much about choosing consciously. It's very much being awake to your life, being awake to the patterns, being awake to the messages, being awake to the way you show up, so that's really like the responsibility in it, but also the joy in it. Because if you really are stuck, been stuck so many times in my life, and I've been afraid so many times, and
Yeah.
I feel that it's something that most of us will experience, maybe not all the time, but quite a few times. And in those moments, though, I find that the if you have a relationship with spirit, you can lean into your relationship with spirit so deeply in those moments, and you can just be held. And it's not always about necessarily moving forward or all the goal setting or whatever it is, but in that time it's being really held, and it's a real support, and it's tangible. So I think that that's something that I hope I also, I feel from our conversation today, I hope people um, take from this conversation, that really that's a part of the joy of developing a relationship, that
Mm.
no matter what the day brings or how you feel when you wake up or whatever it is, it's like this most loyal companion that you have, and this most loyal relationship that you can be in dialogue with, um, and that's one,
Mm.
you know.
I think that's absolutely what people need to hear because a lot of times people, especially when you're going through the rough stuff, the challenging parts, a lot of times you feel alone. There's no one there, no one on your side. And when you're able to sit back and go, maybe I don't feel like I have a human on my side. But I know I have spirit. I know I'm held. I know I'm cradled. I know I'm going to be okay. And I know I'm going to find a way through it. That is more powerful than anything because it's easy to love spirit when everything's going great. That's
Right.
easy to do. But when
Very.
you get the challenging times, how do you trust? And that's when you trust yourself and trust them that it will work out. There will be a way. I can find a way. I can dance in the dark and still
Exactly.
dance and
Right.
still dance.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing with your title to me. They keep showing me a woman dancing in
Mm.
complete darkness, but knowing you're completely held and you're completely safe and you can still dance and enjoy who you are, even not knowing what's coming in the next second.
Yeah.
you can enjoy the moment of dancing with yourself and dancing with spirit.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful how you've put that together. And I just, my team just wants you to know, and they keep saying this book is so impactful for people to give them the freedom to dance when you don't know what's coming, when you don't know what's there, but you do know who you are.
Right. Thank you so much. I feel that so strongly, and I felt that so strongly whilst I was writing the book. And I feel the timing of the book, I feel was really like spiritually woven, that the book would be released during this time because I think so, I wanted to write it in 2020, but the pandemic came out. It was the perfect time to remember dreaming, and dreaming is the spiritual path. And this book is the perfect time for people to remember when so much fear based information is thrown at us consistently. That fear is a choice, that not knowing doesn't mean you should step into fear, that part of our spiritual empowerment is walking through the pathway of the heart and being that for other people when they forget, and that's what it means to dance with the mystery, that we have to trust the descent, we have
Mm.
to trust not knowing, and we have to trust our relationship with spirit. I had a very funny dream the other night. Even as someone who's saying all these wonderful things, I'm just going to quickly share it so no one thinks that there's a level of perfection here. Absolutely not, right? So
I
I had,
love that. We're human and we
yeah,
mess up.
we're
We're,
going to mess up, right? So this isn't like as a needing to be perfect. It's just to return to that space quicker and quicker and quicker, So I have this dream. I'm I'm in a space. It's an apartment somewhere. It's not an apartment, I know. It's familiar though. And I look at the brick wall, and then all of a sudden this brick wall has a symbol on it. And I recognize, oh, that's interesting. So I do a lot of lucidity work. So I work with symbols in very pragmatic ways during the day as well. So in my dream, the symbol pops up and it merges into another symbol image. And then I touch it and it opens up this like doorway into the brick wall. And
wow.
so, of course, in my dream, I go through the little like tunnel thing that's developed, but I hit a point where I want to go up very viscerally in the dream. I want to go up and I cannot. What's provided to me in that dream is that I have to drop. And
Oh,
so there's no choice, really. I can't go back. I can't go up and I have to drop down. So I do. I just take like a deep breath and I drop. And then all of a sudden, like dreams are, I am suspended in the air and I'm not afraid, even though I had a moment of fear before. I'm in this very interesting, beautiful space, and in that space I received a whole lot of messages. Couldn't remember them fully when I woke up, but recognize that very much as the process, and
mm.
process that should maybe be shared with other people, because I feel that is it. You know, you can literally, sometimes life does do that. It may maneuver you into a space that feels a little tricky, or slightly different, and actually you can be held, and you may think you're going to fall flat on your face, but actually you could be suspended midair. At least in dreaming, we really understand that to be a real thing, and then in lucidity even further. So that's just the return that I wanted to tell people about, that even though I talk and I write about these things, I work with spirit actively, and you work with spirit all the time, right? Even you can even do that full time and still have moments of doubt. You can you find yourself, oops, something came into your awareness from social media or something that's tripped you up, right? Oh, you're just having that kind of moment. Just having that kind of moment. You just have to return. So I'm just saying it as a reminder for people that it's not about perfect. There's no perfection here. It's just about returning quicker to spirit and also to a place of equanimity. And I think also having a level of honesty about saying like, oh, I felt fear in this, or I feel this, or I feel that, so that you don't get trapped in that kind of emotional cycle.
And, that's very true. It's recognizing the emotions when they happen because like you said, it's not about perfection. It's about how fast can you get yourself back to recognizing spirit? How
Yeah.
fast can you get yourself back in that more balanced of who you are and
Yeah.
bringing yourself back going, oh, there isn't anything to fear, but recognizing when it happens, it's
Yeah.
okay. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't fail at being this person trying to have this spiritual journey.
Right.
It's like
No. Yeah. No.
there's no failure with that. It is just
Yeah.
recognizing because we're all on a journey. We're all learning. We're all expanding in every moment. And there's things my team will tell me, and I'm like, I don't get what you are trying to tell me. I don't understand a word of it. Try to do it another way because I don't get it. And it's knowing it's okay to say I don't understand, but and it's okay to be, oh, that did make me fearful because you go back and you talk about the dream state and things from, before. And a lot of times the fear we're experiencing as humans now, this
Yeah.
is also coming from not only us, but the collective of fear of other people and the journeys of fear as a collective that we've done as a human
Yeah.
nation, as human society. And it's knowing you're clearing all of that fear at one time.
Yes. That's so beautiful. And I think it's so important as well that like the recognition that it is multiple layers, it's collective and personal, and that you're clearing it. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're helping people step into that and move through it so much. And as you've been doing, like you were doing this book, you've also done the Alchemy of Dreams. And I just want you to just tap a little bit. I know we're talking about your newest book, but can you tell a little bit about the Alchemy of Dreams and how, because there's a lot of people like, how do I discern? Do you go through that and kind of talking about dreams and how to understand them on a different level?
Yes, I absolutely do. Right. So, alchemy, I take the reader through this process of recognizing that when we dream with our psyches and we dream with spirit. Good
Mm.
dream work to me, the art of dream work is recognizing when spirit is speaking to you in a dream and when it's your stuff or the collective stuff, like you were mentioning earlier. Right, because when we're dreaming, we are interacting with all of that in the same way in waking life, we have the ability to connect in that way. And so the book takes the reader through the first half, does it here's what regular symbolic dreams, meaning dreams that you just kind of fall asleep at night and you have this dream, maybe about like a field of daisies, and you wake up and you think, oh man, what was that about? Right. Um, and so I show people how to navigate that space. And then I take readers kind of through the halfway point into the rest of the book. We go on a journey of lucidity. And lucid dreaming is really about recognizing when you're in the dream, you recognize that you are dreaming. But I write from the perspective that when you're in that space, you're very closely connected to source because you're in non-physical, right? And you're connected, so you have this great opportunity to retrieve information, guidance, to practice. You could see yourself receiving something in that dream space. It's highly impactful. There's actually research done through Harvard, I think, where they showed that a violinist who mentally rehearsed playing in a lucid dream, it was like the equivalent of doing it in waking life for like 4 times the amount of time or something. I can't remember the details exactly, but it is this like really potent field that we interact with. And in the book, I share about how we co-create reality, my belief that we co-create reality, and how dreaming shows us often what we are creating. We experience in dreaming, and then timelines. So it's a jam-packed book. It's a great book for, I would say, like beginner intermediary people who haven't done any dream work in a long time or just want to just remember a dream. But it's woven, so we weave the psyche in with spirit, um, in sort of my true form. And so that's what the
All
alchemy
channeled.
is. Yes,
All channeled.
all channels, exactly. And through storytelling, right? I'm great. I love storytelling. And I love people to be able to hold on to stories because I think they're the greatest kind of way of remembering something. You think like, oh, this person had this experience with a dream. Like the other day, I was on this conference. It's a great conference, actually, for anyone who is really interested in dream work. It's called the International Association for the Study of Dreams. They
Oh,
host, it's so, so wonderful.
that sounds amazing.
They host like an annual conference. It's usually in person. This year it was online, and it's just these amazing spiritual seekers and dreamers and researchers and academics that all come together to share the love of dreams. And in one of my dream circles, one of the women shared a story about how she woke up from a dream, and in the dream she had seen her day playing out, and it wasn't particularly positive because she was going to a doctor and she was going to get medical results. Anyway, so she wakes up and the entire day played out in the way she saw in her dreams. And so she had this precognitive experience, and then um I think a very wonderful experience on some level, even though the news she received wasn't so great, because it really affirmed her dreaming practice. But in alchemy, I write and I try and show, and of course, I don't know this definitively, I can't prove this, but when we are given precognitive information, like when someone is psychically reading something, right? We have the opportunity for a change in something. And so, for example, I think she was given an opportunity for maybe a different timeline in that moment. And we had a great discussion about that. So, dreaming, it's so vast. The stories are so meaningful because I feel like a story like that people will remember. And then
Yes.
in true form, what happened is other people started saying, well, I had this experience where I dreamt this, and then I dreamt a tsunami, and then a tsunami happened a week later on the other side of the world. One gentleman shared a really amazing story about how he was dreaming of something about his neck, and then he woke up and he literally injured his neck the next day or something along those lines. And so we're being given very useful information when we dream. The medial book, Woman Who Dance in the Dark, it's the complementary to dreaming. So if
Mm.
we're receiving from spirit in dreaming and we're interacting with multidimensional realities, but we're also bringing our own stuff there, right? We still bring our emotions, we still bring our day to the dreaming world. There are practices to help minimize that. The medial woman who dances in the dark, is going, okay, I have recognized the relationship in dreaming. I have recognized how I can be in this space as a real space, right? A way of moving through another form of reality. The medial woman who dances in the dark, it's learning that language for waking life. And I take readers through mythic steps so that they can see maybe where they are on a path and recognize, well, if I'm on this step and I need help getting to that step, oh, well, then there's a nice little map. Maybe the map works for some people, maybe it doesn't for other people, but the language is the same. When
Yes.
we got onto our call at the beginning of this, I think we were joking about sports, right?
Of course, yes.
Yeah. And we're both saying, like, we don't know anything about that. And you were saying, I'll see a ball and then I get the ball, right? And then I've got to figure out what this ball means. Well, that's the language, right? You see the ball in the dream. Oh my gosh, what does that mean? You see the ball when you're a medium. What does it mean? It is the language of spirit and soul. And so they're complementary, and then in practice, people who are doing it like you know it, but you can always strengthen the relationship and deepen it, I feel.
Absolutely. And that relationship is always strengthening. I always say I learn something from them every day. They teach me something every day. I know I'm going to be learning something right up to the day I die. And I'm excited because it's like I'm going to keep learning something. And it's knowing that. And my team wants me to just circle back on one thing you said earlier, how sometimes you're shown things in a dream where, sometimes it's a very challenging thing. Like, and something may happen or you may injure your neck or something. And you had talked about the other woman who got the news.
Right.
They're also, so my team is also saying sometimes you get that information so you're able to handle it better when
Yeah.
you're there in the physical. It's like where they're using the word like deja vu, where it's almost it's also there to help you with that. So
Yeah.
sometimes the scary things that happen in dreams are there to help you to be calmer when you experience it too.
Yeah.
And it's knowing they keep saying not everything is meant to be fearful. It's meant to be helpful on some level.
Well, that's it, right? We project so much fear onto it. That
Yeah.
dream, I really feel in my own life, the more I've had those kind of dreams, even nightmares, nightmares
Hmm.
are so helpful. They're so helpful. They show you what needs to be integrated. They
Yeah.
feel like horrible when you're receiving them, but if you look at it, the nightmare will lessen. And in the same way, if you're in a relationship pattern or something that isn't is playing out in a way that is just not healthy or not good, right? The minute you face it and you look at it, it changes, it transforms. You give yourself the gift of a new opportunity, a new choice, right? And so the fear is what we project onto it. Which, like you're saying, even something that may seem scary isn't actually, from Spirit's perspective, it's hyper helpful, right? It's helpful information, either like you're saying, to, and like they were saying, to either prepare the person to some degree or to help us change the pathway. And I mean that
Yes.
in a physical timeline, like,
Yeah.
you know, and this is of course not medical advice. Like, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor, go to the doctor. Like I told her, of course you go to the doctor, but maybe you go to a second doctor too. Maybe you don't wear that clothing. Maybe you change the appointment to another day. Who knows, right?
Yes.
And it sounds kind of crazy, but really, okay, well, we're speaking to unseen spirit beings who have a huge perspective. We actually don't know how reality is entirely formed.
Yes.
We know that things can change in an instant. And so maybe our perspective needs to go a little bigger, and maybe it needs to lift to spirit's perspective where things can change kind of instantaneously, and to allow that, and to also recognize that, like, okay, if that's not an easy belief for me to hold, that's fine. Then I can hold a smaller belief. And maybe also, as an aside, which I know you know this, but it also changes depending on what's happening. It's not always one or the other. It's very fluid in its movement, right? Sometimes it's like precautionary, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's so you can avoid it, sometimes it's so you can change it.
Yeah.
A really good example of this is people who, there's a wonderful man who wrote a book called Death is But a Dream. And
Oh,
it's a very a very impactful book, I feel, for a couple of reasons. This man is a doctor, and he worked in a hospice. He became the director of a hospice clinic, and he was very sort of traditional. I think that's what he calls himself, right? Where he didn't really believe in spirit, didn't believe in anything in that way. Of course, that's his right. But what happened is that he started working at hospice. And of course, many people will know this, but hospice, people who are leaving, they tend to have deathbed visions. They tend to dream of the deceased. The nurses started telling him when the patients were going to die, and he couldn't understand how the nurses knew. And the nurses were saying, he's speaking with his mother. His mother's in the room with him. That he's been dreaming of his dad. And it changed his view on like everything. And he wrote this amazing book on like all these beautiful experiences at the end of life. People having those dreams, it's not to change death. It's not that death isn't going to arrive. But isn't
right.
it amazing that the whole community in that space comes together because spirit is there? It becomes less fearful, exactly what you're saying, right? The fear factor diminishes. They're loved, they're supported, they're held, and it's not something fabricated. It comes up and it's experienced by multiple hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, I'm sure, if the research was big enough, So I think that's, again, maybe also like one of the main messages, that it's fear is us thinking. Most of the time it's us projecting and thinking. And when we can take a look at that in a very hopeful and just honest way and say, okay, I'm superhuman in this way, maybe I need to just, like, I don't know, be a little bit more open or courageous in these ways, but also allow spirit to bring that to us in a way that feels comforting. Things really move in a beautiful and loving way. So to me, It's all good. It's all good. It's just information, I guess.
Yeah,
Just
I,
information.
I like that. It's just information and not to, I just keep hearing, take the fear out of it, look at it as just information, and then you can examine it from a
Yeah.
whole different perspective. And that's something with you, you talk about, different archetypes and the medial woman and how and the dreams and signs and myth and intuition. And as you were going through and writing this book, were you also like, I just feel like such expansion happening within you as you were also understanding more? Because I gotta say, I'm just saying, I feel this whole book was pretty much channeled for everything you needed.
It very, very much was. It was a beautiful process for me. It was hard in a lot of places, not hard physically to write it or to be inspired, but because I was expanding, like you were saying, and expansion is not always a comfortable space to be in. It's a growth space. And most of the time, it's a liminal space as well. The old you is still there whilst you're weaving this new version of you, or returning to the version of you who you really are, to the deepest core level. And so the book really was that journey for me. And I think that's why it will also, well, my hope is that people will feel that resonance in the journey, because I think you can only take people as far as you've gone, to some degree, at least when I write, I feel that I would never write, I don't feel, on something that I hadn't intimately maybe gone through. Maybe that'll change, who knows? Maybe I'll end up writing like a romance story on like something else, but you know what I mean? Like, although I'm married, so I don't even know what I'm saying about that. But like, maybe more fantasy based is what I was trying to say.
And then, and there's the other thing is when we had talked about it's not one thing or the other, this really is bringing the worlds together. And even the worlds, and my team always laughs. A lot of people write, they talk about fantasy books, a lot of fantasy
Yeah.
things, but fantasy is a world people have tapped into, so it's
Yeah.
really a reality.
Right, exactly. Well, there we are.
Sounds like it might be a reality for you. So
Yeah. Exactly. I love that.
but we've been taught, I want to be cognizant of your time. I know you've got to get out of here pretty soon. And I just want to ask, is there something else you'd like to cover about your book or something you have coming up or help you, what you offer to people also?
Thank you so much. So, of course, the book Women Who Dance in the Dark. I have a program with the Shift Network that's also coming out, which is on dreaming and the medial woman, and really any other information people can find on my website. And that's a really good
Yes.
place to start. Oh yeah, and my archive.
Shameless plug. Sisterhood of Seers.
Because they're good.
They are very good.
That was very not a very non-humble mention.
Yeah, if I don't like something, I won't say anything. I'll let people know that right now. If there's something I'm not too keen on, I won't say anything about it. If there's
Thank
something
you.
I do, I will let you know. And this is one of them. And I know your books, and that's why my team kept wanting to bring back into both of your books
Thank
because
you.
they do go together, and it is part of a really my team is just saying an intricate journey into the soul by working through the dreams with both of these books coming together. You will see the connection. So there, my team is endorsing your book. So
Thank you. I accept that endorsement, team. Thank you so much. You can never have too many spirit team helpers.
no, it never can have too many. Oh, well, I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you, Athena. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate all of your time. And I want to encourage people again, your website for those who are listening and aren't going to the little thing. It's athenalaz.com and it's ATHENALAZ.com. So go there, find all the rest, but Facebook, Instagram, go on YouTube, find everything. Just go out there and look her up because she's absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. It's been such a great conversation.
Oh, the same here. And go on to Hay House. There, Hay House has your do they also have your books there too?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
They have Women Who Dance in the Dark, and then The Alchemy of Your Dreams is through Tasha Perigi, but everything's available everywhere, like Barnes& and Noble, Amazon,
Amazon.
Hay House, wherever you buy books, they're there. Thank goodness.
Absolutely. So I can't wait for you to go check out all of what she offers because there's so much here. And I've just got to thank you again, Athena, so much. Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your time. And it has been just a pleasure. I had such so much fun today.
Me too. Thank you.
And with that, I just want to make sure to let everyone know. Make sure to watch the next episodes of Edge Talk Radio. They are on the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you've missed any of the past episodes, no worries. Go ahead and go on to either my YouTube channel or Edge Magazine's YouTube channel. You can watch the YouTube video there or go to all your downloadable podcast areas. They are there too. So I can't wait for you to join us and see all of this again. And I also want to thank all of you here for listening and taking the time with us today. And thank you all for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Have an